This is John Lee from the BBC programme See Here, who's going to help us with our first appeal this month. But that's because our first case is about the last days of a 20-year-old from South Wales, Suzanne Greenhill, who was profoundly deaf. In other words, so deaf that she heard no sounds at all and couldn't speak. Now that's why we're making special efforts to communicate with deaf people throughout this sequence. They may be especially well placed to help with this inquiry. So, as well as the normal Crimewatch subtitles on CFAX, we'll have signing and extra captions too. Suzanne was engaged to be married. Her fiancé, Tony Wesson, was also deaf, and she saw him almost every night. But she was fiercely independent and lived on her own in a rented flat. Our reconstruction begins on Friday evening, the 1st of July, in Newport, in Gwent. Tony Wesson was surprised to find Suzanne's curtains had been drawn. It was only 6 p.m.
What's the matter?
Suzanne, go.
Suzanne.
How?
Suzanne had been raped and stabbed repeatedly in her neck and back. Forensic scientists and detectives experienced at scenes of crime described this as one of the most upsetting they'd ever had to deal with. Suzanne had lived here for 2 years and took great pride in the flat's appearance. Her life was sometimes lonely. She was isolated by her disability and shunned by some who found her deafness made them feel uncomfortable. She'd been born deaf and from an early age attended special schools. She remained close to her family and visited her parents and grandparents regularly. Suzanne went every Tuesday to the Deaf Club at Lady Hill Centre, but she seemed happiest with her fiancé. Several times a week, they went to the Newport Leisure Centre. Swimming was one of Suzanne's favourite pastimes. And Tony had persuaded her to join him weight training. She also joined him in another hobby. He's keen on model making, especially motorbikes.
Aye. Good.
Friends remarked on how happy Suzanne seemed when she and Tony were together. Suzanne was very fashion conscious, and a week before her death, she experimented with a different hair colour. She turned from blonde to henna chestnut.
As far as the forensic evidence is concerned, across Suzanne's eyes was tape, and we know that this tape is the Fast Aid zinc oxide 5 centimetre in width.
A roll of that tape was sold at Wilcox Chemist in Malpas Road that week to a man with a plaster cast on his right arm. Detectives need to find that man to eliminate him from their inquiries.
£1.82.
Another roll was sold at Watkins Davis Chemist at Bettis Centre to a man who wanted just a short length cut from a roll.
And you haven't got anything less on the tape here? Oh, well. I'll have it then.
Aye.
Yep, I'll do.
The other piece of vital information we've had from the flat is a footmark. And this mark was definitely made by a person who was there at the time that Suzanne was killed. The mark is of a foot, approximately 4.5 to 5 in size, and this would give us an average height size of 5'1", certainly no more than 5'3". It is possibly, and say possibly, an adolescent. And this footmark was found in the flat in blood.
Police have tried to piece together two elements of Suzanne's life: who she knew and where she'd been the day she died. Some of her acquaintances have not yet been traced, and there's one man in particular detectives need to hear from. He was seen with her several times, at Sainsbury's, where he accompanied her shopping, at Newport bus station, where he went with her towards her home, and at Maysglass Industrial Estate.
Could I have a hot dog, please?
With onions, sir?
Do you want onions? Yes, please.
If this is you, or you know who this is, please call us now. This is all that's known of Suzanne's last day. Between 9 and 10 o'clock, she met a friend and helped her with her shopping. She was also seen at Littlewoods in Newport shopping precinct. She came here often for morning tea and toast. At roughly 10 to 5, she was seen taking shopping home from Sainsbury's. And at 5:30, she was seen in Goodrich Lane.
Hello, darling.
Not knowing she was deaf, they thought her rather snooty. But then they saw her go to a garage, perhaps looking for her fiancé, and finding it locked, they saw her lose her temper. What happened after that is still a mystery. Well, Glenn, we've seen from the reconstruction clearly most of what you need to hear. Is there anything else?
Yes, Nick, there is. In fact, we have a new sighting of Suzanne. This is a sighting on the 27th of June. That's 2 days prior to her death. On that day, she was seen coming from the entrance to Shaftesbury Park, where a fair was being erected.
That's what, a couple hundred yards from her home?
It is indeed. This would have been about 8:30, 8:45. She was wearing very distinctive clothing. In fact, it's what's described as a hot pants suit, which was either pink or pinky orange. I would have thought that with clothing like that, somebody in the fair would have seen her. And we're asking anybody at the fair who saw her, and in particular anybody who saw her talking to any male person at the fair, to contact us.
As it happens, there's another link with that fun fair. In fact, two separate sightings that could point to the same man who might be the killer or might need to be eliminated. At around midnight, in fact, on Wednesday the 29th of June, the day that Suzanne died, this travelling fair was still setting up, due to open, in fact, the next day. And workers were surprised to see a car drive into the park at speed and later drive away down Evans Street. A couple of hours later, another witness remembers seeing a man in a blue checked shirt walking along the junction of Evans Street and Shaftesbury Street. He got into a dark-coloured Mark III Ford Escort and did a fast three-point turn. And the witness remembers that the car had a tow bar and the registration number began, they think, A59. Obviously, you've got to eliminate whoever was driving that car, whoever was walking there. Anyone else you need to eliminate?
Yes, that is correct. We're very anxious to trace the driver of that car. We're also anxious to trace a man who came into our inquiry very early on. This man went into a fish and chip shop in Cross Keys. He had blood on both his arms. He appeared to be intoxicated but didn't smell of drink. This man, we are very anxious to trace.
We've got a video fit of him. Describe him for us, will you?
Yes, he was 6 foot in height. He had mousy brown curly hair. He's described as very, very slim and age between 20 and 25 years.
You've had a lot of help, I know, from the local community and from the deaf community generally.
We have. The deaf community and the neighbours of Suzanne have been particularly patient with us and very helpful. But we are sure, absolutely positive in fact, that there is more vital evidence out there. And we would appeal to anybody who has any evidence, however small it may appear to them. It could be vital in our inquiry to bring Suzanne's brutal killer to justice.
If you knew Suzanne any time in the last couple of years, do call us 811 8055. And we've a separate number for the deaf or hard of hearing. That's 01811 1066. And it's equipped with Minicom phones, which allow callers to type and read their messages. Now, that's only for the deaf who have Minicom or Vistel phones. The number 01811 1066. Or you can call the Main D police station direct. That's using ordinary phones on 0633 244 999. That's 0633, the code for Newport, 244 999.